Greetings, folks, in the time and space. This is your host, Tomoya Shadow, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to some more of the great Ace Attorney Chronicles. We're continuing right where we last left off. In the last live stream, we had just gotten the notification that Suicidal will be leaving for Japan to go look after her ailing father. So without further ado, let's get started out of the way with today's adventure and see what's in store for us. Allons-y! Now, if I'm correct, I'm supposed to be heading back to the prison, so let's do that right fast. 16th of April, local prison, cell 13. Ah! Hello again, Gina. And there she goes again with the grenade launcher. Why? What are you lot here for now? To have the muzzle of that grenade launcher shoved in our faces yet again, obviously. I think I need to improve the way you load ammunition to that thing, don't I? Look! You can come as many times as you like, but I ain't got nothing more to say to you. Gina, I wonder if you might hear me out. There's something I'd like to say. What? I'm sorry to say that I must reluctantly bid you farewell. Farewell? Tomorrow I must begin my journey back home, to Japan. I fear we may never meet again. Oh, right. I've had the pleasure of meeting so many lovely people here in London. I have so many wonderful memories. And yet, as things stand now, it will be a glum parting indeed. Poor Iris is so miserable. Susie. Well, that ain't my business. Both Iris and Mr. Naruhodo believe you to be innocent, Gina. They've put their faith in you. But somehow, you can't find it in your heart to put your faith in them. Yeah, that's right, I can't. What of it? It grieves me greatly to have to say goodbye to my friends when they are so cleverly unhappy. Because of you. What? It's my fault? Yes. So I have one final request, Gina, before our paths never cross again. Right here and now. I want you to show both of them that you don't deserve the faith they've invested in you. Eh? Only by doing that will you truly be as alone as you claim to be. Jesus, Susto is so smart. What are you talking about? What do you expect me to do, eh? You told us that everyone lies. So prove it by admitting one of your own untruths. What about what you said before, Ginny? You said something about unforgivable lies. You must tell Mr. Naruhodo and Iris the truth now. That is my last request before I leave. My last request as a judicial assistant. No, I can't. Whatever these lies are, they're obviously weighing very heavily on Gina's mind. Gina, I could be wrong, but is it something to do with what happened 2 months ago? Something about that trial? The one in which Magnus McGilded was acquitted. The case of that mysterious murder that took place inside the omnibus. You were called as a witness by the prosecution. Is that what this is about? Yeah, you're right. Because in that trial, I lied. I lied like you wouldn't believe. Will you tell us about it now? Ah, she committed perjury. Oh boy. The trial 2 months ago. Like you said, it all happened 2 months ago. The coppers got hold of me and shoved me in the witness stand. And based on your testimony, Mr. McGilded was declared innocent. Yeah, well, the thing is, I lied about a whole bunch of stuff. I knew it. What sort of thing did you lie about? I was hiding under the seat that night. That was the truth. It was pitch black in that little cubbyhole. I couldn't see a thing. And then I heard that loud thud, like someone falling on the floor. And that's when Mr. McGilded discovered you? Yeah. He pulled me out from under the seat and sat me next to the dead man. They weren't much light to see by, but when I looked at me hands, I had the cove's blood all over them. I was so scared, I couldn't even speak. You had his blood on your hands? In other words, it was Gina that the witnesses on the roof deck saw through the skylight. Then Mr. McGilden started asking you questions, I suppose. Who you were, and why you were hiding under the seat. Yeah, he did, only that's not all. What do you mean? I mean he threatened me. Threatened you how? He made me swear about what I'd seen and what I'd heard, and about what I was going to do after the cove was found dead. He made me swear I wouldn't tell no one about any of it. If I did that, he said he'd let me scarp her before the cops showed up. Gina, you must tell me what he swore you to secrecy about. What you saw, what you heard, everything. You said McGilden made you swear not to tell anybody what you saw, but you were in the pitch-black compartment under the seat the whole time, weren't you? Yes, with Mr. McGilden sitting above your head, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that's true, but it was when I heard the thud of the cove hitting the floor, I let out a little scream, see? Couldn't help it. McGilden heard that and dragged me out by me arm, and that's when I saw it. It was on the floor next to the old geezer what had been stabbed. A disc, all bright and shiny. A disc? Do you mean... Yeah, that's it. The one what the deed took off me at Windy Banks. So the music box disc was there, on the floor of the omnibus? Not for long. McGilden spotted it straight away. He picked it up smartish and stuffed it inside his inside pocket. So that disc was in the omnibus 2 months ago, at the scene of Mr. Mason's murder. And the bog trotter told me I weren't to mutter a word of it to no one. Because it was so dark under that seat in the cab, I was straining my ears the whole time. After a while, I heard the door and footsteps inside the cabin. Presumably that was McGilden getting on board. Nah, not only him. Oh, because I could definitely make out the footsteps of 2 people. In that case, it would seem likely that it was Mr. McGilden and the victim, Mr. Thrice-Fired Mason. In his testimony during the trial, Mr. McGilden claimed he slept during the carriage ride. But whenever I'm in a carriage, I'm taken with a fierce tiredness, and I always succumb to it. In your own testimony, Gina supported his. All I could hear was the Irishman snoring. Yeah, that weren't exactly true. Neither of them was asleep. I could hear him talking the whole time, in low voices. What? What were they talking about? Sorry, I don't know. The sound of the horses and the wheels was too loud. But that tells us something. Mr. McGilden and the victim knew each other. So McGilden was lying, as I suspected. I knew it weren't going to take long before someone raised the alarm that the bloke had been killed. Yes, you were quite right. The other passengers on the roof deck noticed very quickly. So when the cab came to a stop, McGilden told me to ride back under the seat again. I climbed in and waited. The 2 coves from up top ran off to get the coppers. Yes, Mr. Fairplay and Mr. First. Right. And after they'd gone, McGilden asked the driver to do him a favor. A favor? Now then, fella, what I need you to do is take this coat of mine and deposit with a nearby pawnbroker. And for your troubles, let's see now. Aye, I'll give you 10 guineas. A nearby pawnbroker? You mean on Baker Street? Yep, you got it. It was Windy Banks. The coachee snapped up the money and ran off to pop this coat as fast as he could. So then there was no one left in the carriage. McGilden opened the box under the seat and let me get out of there, but not without conditions. I see. What were McGilden's conditions then? Letting you go free, I mean. Not telling a soul. Not for anything. about what I saw and what I heard. And there was something else as well. There's more? Yeah, this is the most important thing, he said. I'm after sending the coachman on a little errand for me, with some small change in his hand. Now then, did you hear what I asked of him? Did you see anything at all? At all? You asked him to go pop your weasel, right? Aye. The fiend's taken me overcoat to deposit with a pawnbroker here afterwards, and I want you, lass, to take the redemption ticket for it. You understand? What? You want me to have the ticket? That's right, and I'll come fetch it from you later, sometime within the next 2 months. But hang on to it until then. Is that clear? And whatever you do, don't lose it. All right, then. And in case I might happen to be delayed at all, you're to go to the pawn shop, Windy Bank so it is, and you're to extend the loan after the 2 months is up. If you forget, the article will be forfeited, and any old fiend could come along and buy it. Eh? But I ain't got that kind of brass. Here's £5. That should be enough. Do you understand each other, lass? Don't try anything funny now, if you go against me. Yeah, I get it. Good. And one more thing. In a few days from now, you'll be visited by the police, I've no doubt. The coppers? Aye, they'll come asking you to take the stand in court, to testify as a witness. Let's just have a wee chat about that, shall we? What is it that you might say, and what it is that you won't? After he'd gone over it all, I piked it, got as far away from there as I could. He hid the pawnbroker's ticket in some bushes near the scene. I went to fetch it the next day once it got dark. So McGill had planned it, and coerced Gina into giving false testimony. I bet you're ready to string me up, eh? I lied, in that big old courtroom. I told some corkers. The thing is, he said he would make it so he couldn't live in the East End no more. That's what he threatened me with. What a wicked man. He knew everything what went on in the back slums. He knew we had no one to look after us, and we was all just looking out for each other, getting by together. So you mean Mr. McGilded would have... In a heartbeat. He could have had the lot of us chased out of there if he'd wanted. And then where could we have gone, eh? Nowhere, that's where. So I didn't have no choice. Thank you, Gina, for telling us everything. But I'm for it now, eh? Go on, admit it. You must be livid. Well, you can make amends by doing me a simple favor. A favor? What? Sign the representation papers for tomorrow's trial. Eh? If you don't actually want me to represent you in court, you can rip it up later. But we need that paperwork or we can't investigate. The police won't let us. Investigate what? The scene of the incident last night. Mr. Sholmes was shot, you see. He what? Hurley's having a big operation right now, Gina. Is it bad? Is he going to be alright? Sholmes is going to be alright, right? That's what I want to investigate, for Mr. Sholmes' sake as much as anything. Right. So what you're saying is, if I sign that bit of paper, everyone's happy, is that it? Something like that. Miss Susato? Yes, of course. And the representation papers here. I don't need no one to stick up for me, though. No lawyer or nothing. Poor Ginny. She seems so lonely. Gina's representation papers have been entered into the court record. Well, at least this should mean we can investigate the scene at Windybanks now. Yes, and perhaps we could come back to visit Ginny when we're done there. I feel like we finally cracked Gina. She's open to us at last. And now I have her representation papers. No one else knows just what a responsibility that is. Anyway, for now it means Inspector Gregson can't stop us investigating at Windybanks. Although, something tells me he's not going to be happy about it. Investigation Part 4. Jesus! They really did stretch out this chapter. 16th of April, 1:26 p.m., Windybanks Pawnbrokery. And the fact that I know they stretched it out is because we haven't even gotten to the trial yet. And episode 5 in the Ace Attorney games is technically tends to be the longest chapter, but there has been 4 investigation parts for this chapter so far. We haven't even gotten to the trial section yet. Oh boy. Here we are again at the scene of the crime. Now to thrust these representation papers in Gregson's face to see what he makes of them. Hello again, Inspector. Do you have a minute, please? What is it now? You should go home and get some rest. Here you are, Gregsy. Here are the representation papers. Your ladyship! How? I don't believe it. How the devil did you get that stubborn little ragabash to sign that? I salute you. That is good work, that is. I can see you've been very busy here as well. How about some tea? It's a special blend designed to relieve fatigue. Ah, lovely. Well, let's see now. Yes, I hardly feel tired at all. I'm fit as a fiddle, your ladyship. Would it be alright if we investigated the scene of the crime, then? Do as you please. You know where it happened. Through that door behind the counter. Yes, the storeroom. That's where I discovered Mr. Windybank. And Gina. Right, well, I'll be getting back to business then. Will you be investigating in the storeroom as well, Inspector? If I'm perfectly honest, we need to wrap this up before long. Can't afford to spend too much time on it. But there are so many articles to go through, it's taking forever, even with the lads working round the clock. Which is a problem, because there's another case the Yard needs to investigate urgently. That must be what Lord Strongheart meant by far more serious matters before. So what I'm saying is, don't get under my feet, Sunshine. Come then, let us not waste any time. Okay, let's see here. Examine. See what I can highlight here. That's a music box. Do you have them where you come from, Bruno? Yes, but I've never seen one as large as this in Japan. Oh, well, this will be a treat. Shall we have a listen? It's still the same music from before. What do you think? Isn't it a pretty sound? It's a beautiful sound, yes, but it's a little hard to enjoy when all the policemen in the room are giving you fierce looks. Never mind that. If any of them say anything, I'll tell Gregsy to have a word. Iris Wilson, Superintendent of Scotland Yard. I can interact with this. These shelves are where the pawnbroker puts articles that have been forfeited on display for customers to buy. Yes, it's a really strange miscellany, isn't it? I mean, who would buy this horse statue, for example? Well, sometimes you can find some real treasures among all the junk, you know. Are you alright, Bruno? Oh, it's just... well, it looks like a collection of useless junk as a whole, but when you pick out individual things, you can't help wishing you owned them. Even that horse statue. That's exactly how the pawnbroker works. They're very clever. There's the article ledger here, and Mr. Windybank's notes, and... What's this? It looks as though someone has left a little photographic print behind. Oh, look on the back! There's some writing! Is there? Ooh, show us, Susie, show us! 15th of February, 10:30 p.m. Article deposited, 1 gentleman's overcoat. Loan amount paid, £1. Redemption deadline, 15th of April, 10:30 p.m. A gentleman's overcoat pawned for £1. Clearly was a very fine coat. In fact, I think... Yes, this must be the ticket for the overcoat that Ginny redeemed yesterday, and is still wearing, which belonged to McGilded. I would never have expected the redemption ticket to be handwritten on the back of a photograph, though. It seems Mr. Windybank just used whatever piece of paper he happened to have to hand. But this photograph of a cat, it looks very familiar, doesn't it? I'm sure I've seen this exact same picture somewhere else recently. Oh, yes, you're right. Very recently. It's the same as the one Ginny gave us earlier. Of course, I was forgetting that she gave us that print. Well, what are you waiting for then, Mr. Naruhodo? Get it out! All right, let the cogs turn. It is slightly different, though, because, look, the one on the left, the cat's looking towards the left, and the one to the right, the cat's looking towards the right. Yes, they are exactly the same. I've got it. These two photographs hide an amazing secret. A secret? What does she mean? You must tell us, Iris, at once. Do you really want to know? Yes, we need you to tell us all you know about this pair of photographs. So, Iris, about these two photographic prints. The one we found here on Mr. Windybank's counter and the one Gina gave us before. What is this amazing secret you mentioned that's hidden between these two identical prints? Actually, that's not quite right. Sorry. If you look carefully, the two prints aren't the same. Not exactly. They're not? Have another look at them now. Can you see that they're just slightly different from each other? I think so. It's very subtle, though. But what's the reason for the subtle difference between the two prints? Ah, well, it's because they're a set, you see. No, I don't. This pair of photographs is meant to be used in a stereoscope. Everyone in London is raving about them at the moment. Ah, a stereoscope. Why do I feel as though I've heard that word before recently? Oh, yes, that's what Mr. Schoen showed us yesterday. You see, there it is, just over there. Ah, yes, of course. That magic machine that makes pictures look almost real enough to touch. Well, actually, it's quite possible to see the same depth in pictures even without one of those contraptions. Yeah, you have to be cross-eyed in order to do that, but unfortunately, my eyes don't work like that. At least not anymore. What, really? Do you know how a pair of flat photographic prints can appear to have any depth in the first place? No, I have no idea. Oh, wonderful. Then I'll be able to tell you. She's over the moon, bless her. Should we let her explain, though? We really need to carry on investigating the scene. I, for one, simply have to know. Have you ever considered, Bruno, how our eyes see depth in the world around us? Well, I just opened them, and it works. But the reason it works is because we have two eyes. Two eyes? Shocking. If you try closing just one at a time, I think you'll see straight away what you see with your left eye and what you see with your right eye are ever so slightly different. You get a different view with each eye. Yes, the position of objects seem to shift slightly. Exactly. And in your head, your brain uses that shift to estimate depth as it merges the two views into one. That's how we could sense depth in everything we see. My brain really is amazing, isn't it? It does so much without telling me. I think I see. So the pair of photographs consists of a left eye view and a right eye view. Is that right? Oh, well done, Susie. You're so quick. So if you could persuade your brain to merge the two pictures together in your head, you'd be able to see depth in those prints? Yes, Bruno. You're beginning to understand. And the stereoscope's function is to act as your brain and allow you to do just that. Yes, but as long as you have two images, two eyes, and one brain, you can actually do it yourself without needing a stereoscope at all. You can? Really? Let's try it. Let's see if you can view this pair of prints without the help of a stereoscope. Oh yes, I'm dying to have a go. Suicidal really loves this kind of thing. You need to be able to cross your eyes. That's the main thing. Can you both do that? Cross my eyes? I think I can. Watch me. Let's see if you can copy. Dirt face! Oh, that's adorable. Make your eyes do this. Alright, let me try. Are you ready, Mr. Naruto? Derp! There, what's that? Wonderful, now it's your turn, Runo. The trick is to concentrate on looking at the bridge of your nose with both eyes at the same time. Not exactly an easy task when two people are staring at you cross-eyed. Alright, that's enough practice. Now let's try looking at the prints. Start by staring at one print and slowly crossing your eyes. You should see two overlapping images like this. You try it now, Runo. I'm just going to have to give it a try, I suppose. Nope, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's not working. Did the print split into two images for you? Now the next step is to put the pair of prints side by side like this, and then try crossing your eyes again. Nope, it still doesn't work. The prints should slowly merge together until... Kitty! They form a new single image in the center. Oh yes! Listen, Naruto, it works. I can see it in the middle now. And her eyes are crossed. Suicidal, please stop doing that. I can't take you seriously. It looks so real. I can look at it all day. I wouldn't advise that. Your eyes might start to hurt. Your turn, Runo. Pretend you're looking through the pictures and slowly cross your eyes. Keep adjusting the position of your eyes until two images overlap exactly in the middle. Like this, is it? Yeah, it's not working. I'm sorry. I can't cross my eyes anymore. That's something I'm finding very odd. I can't do it anymore. There, you managed it. So now you know how stereoscopic images work. Well, I don't know who discovered it, but it really is quite extraordinary. So what do you think of these stereoscopic prints then, Runo? They're certainly amazing, but it isn't easy to get the knack of viewing them properly. No, some people find it easier than others. But that's why contraptions like this exist, for people who find it tricky. Oh, I recognize that. We saw one over there yesterday, didn't we? If I remember correctly, you press this little knob here. Then set the pair of photographs in the stand at the backhand. It's still amazing, even though I roughly know roughly how it works now. Well, one that seems to agree with you. Stereoscopes are very popular at the moment. You can find one of these folding contraptions on lots of households in the capital currently. But if these little machines are so affordable, surely there's no need to go around staring cross-eyed at pictures like you hate them. But it's much more satisfying to be able to see the effect with your own eyes. Well, I think so in any case. Stereoscopic pictures. I never even heard of them until yesterday. We've certainly learned a lot about them, but I wonder if it's knowledge that I'll ever actually need. Alright, let's see here. I can still interact with the stereoscope, so let's see what this is. This is that strange contraption that lets you see pictures of things as if they're right in front of your eyes. It makes you think. When Mr. Sholmes gleefully showed it to us yesterday, we were blissfully unaware that any of this was about to happen. And then, of course, the small stereoscope. I'm fairly sure this contraption was here yesterday as well. Here we are, though I'm not confident I could get it closed again. Oh yes, that's a folding stereoscope. Really? This is a stereoscope. Mr. Sholm showed us a picture yesterday that you were supposed to be able to see in 3 dimensions. For that, he used a great big contraption over there. Ah, well, that's for use in public houses and places like that. It contains a carousel with all sorts of pictures inside. But this little thing is a much simpler design for use at home. There are special shops selling prints you could use in them. I have a little collection myself. I wonder if I can make money out of these in Japan. It would beat keeping my toilet sparkling clean anyway. Alright, we can interact with the calendar. Ah, look here! Oh yes, a bullet hole. And I can see the bullet is still lodged in the wall. Presumably Mr. Windybank wasn't practicing with his revolver in his spare time. Ah, well, Mr. Sholmes likes to practice in his drawing room whenever he can. He's very patriotic like that. Sorry? It's all there in Adventures of Sherlock Sholmes, you know. Isn't that right, Iris? Ah, did I write something like that? Partly in jest, perhaps. In jest! Well, he doesn't do it often. It is quite a dangerous pastime. He doesn't do it often! He shouldn't even do it once! Forget that for now, Bruno. Let's examine this bullet. What's that around the bullet hole? Is it blood? A suspicious red stain on the calendar. Aha! I may well be able to help with that. What? There's nothing like the sight of blood to get the blood pumping, is there, Bruno? I have a feeling I'm not as bloody-minded as you, Iris. I'm afraid the sight of blood makes my blood run cold. There you have it, you see? When it comes to blood, we're all different types. Yes, what a scientific observation. So you need this. Oh no, what is that scary-looking thing? Charlie and I haven't actually come up with a name for it yet. But as soon as you see it in action, you'll understand what it is. Watch. Green blood. Oh! The color of the bloodstain has changed. There, does it make sense now? Yes, I think I'm starting to understand. So basically, it's a luminol type of thing, right? Yes, how wonderful. The chemical it fires combines with the blood and makes it change color, so you can identify whose blood it is that you're looking at in a flash. Oh, what a fabulous invention, Iris. Isn't it? Isn't it? I bet Ginny would say it's bleeding great. So whose blood are we looking at then? Well, all the chemical does is turn the blood a different color, so just find someone whose blood turns the same color and you'll know who it belongs to. In a flash. That's, too limited. It's more like 2 flashes, really, isn't it? 1 flash or 2. This could well turn out to be a very valuable clue. So I must make a note of it in the court record. The blood sample has been entered into the court record. Let's keep testing and adding the results of any other blood analysis to the portfolio. As long as I have reagent left, sure. Let's see here. Blood samples, huh? We actually do have another blood sample here. And that's this one. Mr. Naruhodo, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's something rather troubling here. I have noticed. The red smear, you mean? Yes. It looks like blood, doesn't it? I wondered if Suso-san had picked up on that. Well, in that case, yes, we need Iris. We should show this to her before we forget. Oh, that looks like blood! I would say it's from a gloved finger. Almost certainly a glove made of leather. Well, don't worry, Bruno. You can leave the rest to me. Purple blood. Look at that! Yes, that's a color we haven't seen before, isn't it? We simply must add it to the portfolio of blood samples. It could be an important clue. Although, it would be nice to find out whose blood these different colors correspond to at some point. Well, this particular stain of blood... Oh, you've had an idea, haven't you? Do you know whose blood this is? Yes, I have an idea whose blood it is. Not from the color turn, but with a little deduction. That's right. I think it's clear. Iris, you know as well? You first, Runo. Who do you think it belongs to? Alright, I believe that this is the blood of... Thrice-fired Mason. Makes sense. Thrice-fired Mason? You don't sound very sure of yourself the way you trailed off there. Well, it was 2 months ago now in that case, and of course I never met the victim, so I'm struggling to remember his name. He was definitely thrice-fired, though. The victim of the omnibus case? Yes, his name was indeed Mr. Thrice-fired Mason. But that would mean that this bloodstain was left on the ticket 2 months ago. Yes, I think it was. Gina brought this ticket here to Windybanks yesterday. I'm suggesting that the bloodstain was already on it at that time. So it was a smear of blood from the time that Mr. Mason was killed 2 months ago. Something else is coming back to me now. Mr. McGilded was also wearing leather gloves that night.
Now I ask is, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fellow bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about my gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand.
It certainly does look like a leather glove thumbprint, this mark. But we know that Mr. McGilded had no injuries at the time, anywhere on his body, from which we could conclude that any blood on the glove belonged to the victim, Mr. Mason. Mr. Naruhodo, you sound just like Mr. Sholmes. Minus the quirky slip-ups, I hope. Yes, I think you're right, Runo.
Very well, let's make a note of this.
Okay. Last place to check. And that's the storeroom itself. Behind that door is the storeroom, isn't it? That's what Gregsy said. Yes, and that's where I saw that dreadful scene last night. Through the little window in the door. Mr. Windybank, face down on the floor, with Gina beside him. That's the accused legal representative. You have the right to examine the scene, Mr. Naruhodo. We must make a thorough investigation. Yes, of course, and we will. Behind that door, that's the real scene of the crime. Don't worry, if there are clues in there, I'll find them. Hooray! Into the storeroom. 16th of April, Windybank storeroom. Poor Iris. She's clammed up completely. Iris is bound to find this difficult. After all, Mr. Windybank's life was taken in this very room only last night. Ah! Wait, Inspector! What is it now, Sunshine? You took one look at me and tried to run away. You think a Scotland Yard inspector would run away from some jumped-up little defense lawyer, do you? Well... I've never seen her ladyship looking like that before, is the thing. I didn't know what to say to her. So you weren't running away from me, you were running away from a 10-year-old. I'm afraid this is all a little much for young Iris. Some gentle reassurance might go a long way, perhaps, Inspector. Eh? Don't trouble yourself unduly, your ladyship. I mean, at least you're not dead, are you? What on earth? You don't say that! That didn't help at all, Gregson. I don't think that went very well. Why? Look, I'm in the middle of an investigation here, Sunshine, and I told you not to get under my feet. And we have investigating to do ourselves. Yes, I'd like to hear more of what the socially inept inspector has to say. Oh, Hurley, and inquire into how Mr. Sholmes' operation is going. So, Inspector, what do you make of the crime scene here? Pshaw, you've got eyes, haven't you? Use them! It is what it looks like. Nothing more, nothing less. Iris, could you lend me a hand? So, Gregsy, what do you make of the crime scene here? Oh yes, your ladyship, do allow me to humbly explain. Last night, at shortly after the hour of 1 o'clock in the morning, Scotland Yard police attended the scene. The one and only door to this storeroom was found locked from the inside. So it was locked from the inside. The lock appears to be broken now, though. Was that the police officer's doing? Quite right, ma'am, quite right. We took the liberty of smashing the door in, as humbly as possible. Oh. As you can see, the victim was discovered prostrate on the floor, thuswise. And next to the aforementioned body, we discovered a vile gutter child. Are you talking about Ginny? She's my friend, you know, Inspector. Miss Lestrade, the hapless girl, was curled up on the floor, dead to the world. She's still alive, you know. Yes, when I saw her, she appeared to be unconscious, and I'm afraid to say she had the gun that was used in her hand. No! Presumably, it's the gun that's still down there on the floor now. In her pocket, we found the key to the door as well. What? The key to this storeroom? And you say the storeroom had been locked from the inside, Inspector? Correct. All of which leaves her ladyship's friend. It's something of a sticky situation, I'm afraid. Obviously, my personal opinion is that it's all some sort of misunderstanding. Of course it is, Inspector. Of course it is. Gregsy, do you know anything about Hurley? Is the operation finished? Is Hurley alright? Is he? Thing is, Don't miss your words, Inspector, please! You don't mean to say that Mr. Sholmes is... No, the operation's done and dusted. It's just that, well... Out with it! Yes, ma'am! I use something called a general anesthetic. It's the latest thing, renders the whole body insensitive. The whole body? Anesthetized? I don't know how to say that word. It's like... I can't say that word. Is that even possible? It means the operation can be completed while the patient is fast asleep. Goodness, in the Empire of Japan, we could just manage to provide laughing gas for tooth extraction. The trouble is, the latest thing isn't always the greatest thing, if you follow my meaning. They couldn't get the medication to work at first, so it took hours for him to nod off, and so I hear. And now that the op's finished, they can't get him to wake up, apparently. Oh my! No one knows if it's the anesthetic still in the system, or if the bloke's just plain exhausted. But anyway, all they can do is stand back and watch until he comes round again. Hurley! The moment he opens his eyes, your ladyship, I swear I shall get word to you. What a surprise. Even in matters of life and death, Mr. Sholmes has to do things his way. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to... present this to you. Inspector, what do you make of this? What have we here then? The redemption ticket for an article deposited here, is it? Looks like someone ran out of office stationery and wrote that ticket on whatever paper was to hand. Yes, this is a ticket for Mr. McGilda's overcoat. The one that little diver turned up with yesterday. Oh, actually no, it's not. Really? Think you know better than me, do you? No, I didn't mean to, You know, it's right, Grexy. It isn't the same ticket. Of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. I never doubted you, your ladyship. So, what's all this about then, if I might be so bold as to ask? This is a second ticket. A second one. It seems that Mr. McGilded, in fact, had another article in storage here at Windy Banks. Is that right? I think we need to discuss this further with the inspector, Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, good, because he's ever so easy to talk to. Oh dear. This ticket was in one of the pockets of Mr. McGilded's overcoat. Eh? You mean to tell me? Yes, there was more than just a music box disc, it seems. Should have insisted on last taking it back to the yard and examining it properly. Well, according to the details on this ticket, Mr. McGilded deposited another article here with Mr. Midneybank. Yes, I can see it written here. A small box, was it? Do you have any idea where it is, Gregsy? Any at all? There's another article belonging to Mr. McGilded. It could be an important clue. Well, yes, I suppose it could be. Please, stop looking at me with those big turquoise eyes, all full of hope and expectation. It's too much pressure. I'll lose me marbles, I will. I'll go barking. This is no time for dog impression, Inspector. That's enough sauce from you, Sunshine. There is one thing that springs to mind. According to this ticket, the redemption deadline's already passed, hasn't it? Oh yes, of course. Article's only held for 2 months. So the small box will no longer be in here then. Frick! Frickin' yawns. That's right, it's been forfeited. Which means it could be on the shelves in the front of the shop, where the forfeited items are offered for sale. Yes, the shelves in the front. You must search them at once. You're wasting your time. Oh, there are dozens of little boxes out there. Hundreds even. We can't possibly know which one might have been McGilded's. That information is not written in the ledger. Well, I think we should at least have a look, just in case. Of course, your ladyship, of course. Very sensible of you, I'm sure. This is getting old. Okay. Nothing I can talk to with. Might as well examine everything that's in here. Look at all these articles that have been deposited. The room is stuffed full of them. I can't believe how many there are. A bicycle, a gramophone, musical instruments, even some enormous paintings. Look! Pieces of different people's lives quietly gathering dust in here together. There's something very peaceful about the atmosphere in here. Or at least there would be, if not for the chalk outline on the floor and the policeman shuffling around. Not much I can do about that, Sunshine. The gun! This is a revolver. A real one! And quite possibly the murder weapon. You should take Mr. Windybank's life. What's the matter, Susie? You and Runo look like you're about to faint. Well, it's just that I've rarely seen a gun in the flesh, and I've had issues with guns in the past. But anyway, we saw Mr. Windybank with us yesterday, didn't we? I shall have to take my own life. It must be the same gun. And last night, when I looked through the spy hole in the door to the storeroom here, that was the same gun I saw in Gina's hand. Mr. Windybank told us that he only ever had a single bullet loaded in his revolver, didn't he? Well, it's empty now. The one and only bullet he had in his gun has been fired. So we could be fairly certain that only a single shot was fired from this revolver. The police have marked the position of the body with a chalk line. Poor Mr. Windybank. He was a nice old man. Well, he was shot just once, through the heart. Most likely the fellow died instantly. He wouldn't have felt a thing. This must be his blood, then. Ah! I don't like to ask at such a wretched time, Iris, but I wonder if perhaps... Don't worry, Susie. I'm ready for action. Blue! So, now we know the color of the chemical turns when it reacts with Mr. Windybank's blood. And it doesn't match our analysis of the blood stain we found in the main shop. No, but let's add this sample to the others we've already collected anyway. The blood samples portfolio has been updated in court record. Alright. Guess the only thing left to examine is this box. Out of all the articles in this storeroom, this is the only thing that shows any sign of being ransacked. Ah! What is it, Iris? That's the box file that my manuscript was being kept in. The Sholmes music! I wasn't expecting this to show up. Oh! Iris' unpublished story, The Hound of the Baskervilles. Surely that's not what all this... Sorry, Iris, but if you ask me, he sold it. Without telling you. We must check inside the box at once. Yes. Ah! It was there. Iris' story was there. Really? It was? Well, that's good news, isn't it, Iris? Yes. I mean, of course I believed Hurley when he said he'd deposited it here, but still. It's a relief to actually see it. Really? Because that's not a very well-hidden frown. Clocks! Oh, the clocks! I nearly jumped out of my skin there. How could Mr. Windybank set such a wicked trap? I doubt he set out to scare anyone. Is that really the time? I think perhaps we should pay Gina another visit soon. Oh! Her trial is tomorrow. We must establish whether or not you will be defending her. I think we should ask her one more time. She may have changed her mind. Don't you remember, Bruno? You told her she could rip up the representation papers if she didn't want you to be her lawyer. Really? Did I say that? Yes, you did. The deadline for submitting the paperwork is fast approaching. In that case, we had better hurry back to the prison and talk to Gina again. Alright then, back to the prison. April, 5:41 p.m. Local prison, cell 13. Ah, Gina, good, you're back. Oh, she's gonna pull out the grenade launcher again, isn't she? Nope, not this time. The police must have finished questioning her then. Oh, how was it, Ginny? Was it awful? Eh? Oh, didn't bother me. Thank you for the papers you signed before. It meant we were able to investigate at Windybank's. Oh, right. Don't you want to know how we got on? We've been ever so busy. What's the point in asking? Won't change what everyone's saying. That I did it. That's not... Gina, we came to ask for your final decision. Eh? What decision? About tomorrow's trial. Will you let me defend you or not? I must submit the paperwork now if you'd like Mr. Naruhodo to represent you. Right, I see. She's really lost her fight all of a sudden. But I know what that feels like. The worry is just so hard to bear. First things first, let me present the manuscript. We found this in Mr. Windybank's storeroom. The manuscript of Iris's latest story. Ah! Oh, right. Well, that's good then. Curiously, the storeroom at Windybank showed no sign of being ransacked for items of value or the like, with one exception, the box file that housed this manuscript. It was you, wasn't it, Gina, who broke open the box containing this manuscript last night? Eh? You were determined to find out whether or not the Hound of the Baskervilles was really there. That's the real reason you broke into the storeroom last night, isn't it? Why don't you tell us what happened? Please. Alright, that's one thing that I could talk to her about. But I also want to, Okay, we're not going to talk about that just yet. We're not going to bring that up just yet. I don't think we... Because I'm willing to bet there's blood on her coat. But we don't have that information just yet. Oh, all right then. Blimey, give it a rest with the eyes, Iris. So come on then, fill us in. Who done it? Unfortunately, we don't know that yet. You don't say. We don't know yet, Gina. But Mr. Naro and all of us know that you are innocent of this crime. And while we haven't yet managed to work out who the real culprit is, there are a number of interesting facts that we have managed to establish. Oh yeah? Like what? Well, for example, the reason for you being there in the first place. I think I now know... I know now why you broke into Windybanks last night. We already have the representation papers and other documents we need. All we have to do is hand them to the court clerk. That is, if you'll allow me to represent you in court tomorrow. Nah, don't bother. Kenny, rip them up and chuck them, would you? Them representation papers or whatever they're called. The cell ain't fancy enough to have a bin. So what will you do in court tomorrow? I'll be fine on my own. I don't think you will be. Look, it don't matter. What's gonna happen is gonna happen. This is one stubborn pickpocket. Alright, yeah. This Baskervilles story. It's the latest Sholmes adventure, right? But it ain't been printed yet. So I figured it's gotta be worth a fair few pieces of silver, right? Oh yes, at least 5,000 pounds. What? So you intended to sell us Iris's manuscript, did you? No. Ginny, how could you? What? Wait. Oh, hang on. Of course I weren't going to sell it. All I wanted to do was find out if the manuscript, or whatever you call it, really was there or not. It's the only reason I was in there in the first place. For Iris's sake, is that right? Ah, we knew why you'd done it from the start, Gina. Of course we did. But I knew you wouldn't do anything mean like that, Ginny. I just knew it. Well, when I saw the manuscript in the storeroom, it reminded me of what you said the night before. Grown-ups do a lot worse than that, believe me. Bare-faced liars, a lot of them. You just ain't realized it yet. I'm telling you, that manuscript ain't at Windybanks. You'd soon see it if you had a look. If I'm honest, I have wondered if Hurley's telling me the truth sometimes. I mean that I sometimes wonder if he might have hidden my manuscript somewhere I don't know, even though it's wrong of me to doubt him. Oh, Ginny, that was so sweet of you. Alright. I'll tell you why I did it. Just stop looking at me like that, Iris. Ah, there we go. It weren't because of Iris. That's not why I did it. I just wanted to know the truth, that's all. You wanted to know if Mr. Sholmes was being honest? If he'd really deposited the manuscript at Windybanks? It's like I told you the night before. I never had a father. But Iris's lot ain't like mine. She's got her dad, and when she can't see him. And I reckon that's gotta be harder. That's why she writes her stories. They're about her dad, really. That's what it sounded like to me, anyway. Last night when I was listening to what you were saying. Stories about Daddy? You mean they're not the adventures of a great detective? So much as the adventures of a great detective and his trusty partner. Well, that's how I see it, yeah. You're so thoughtful and so kind, Ginny. Yes, and we never thought any differently, did we? Look, give it a rest, will you? I hate all this chummy nonsense, do you hear? I hate it. I don't trust no one, right? That's how I work. Because if you don't trust no one can let you down. So leave me alone. Go on, Scarper. I hadn't noticed it till now, but it's unmistakable. Right there on both sleeves of that overcoat are some very suspicious red stains. What? Why are you looking at me like that? I think it might be worth presenting some of our other findings in that area to Gina now. There we go. Those stains on the sleeves of your new coat, Gina. They're blood, aren't they? Not that I know whose blood yet. What? Blood, Mr. Naruto. You don't appear to have any obvious wounds yourself, though. So could it be blood that spattered from Mr. Windybank when he shot last night? Let's not beat around the bush here. This trusty friend of mine will get results much faster than anything else. Huh? Take it easy, Iris. Don't move, Ginny. I'm gonna shoot. Whoa. Blood-soaked, and it's purple is thrice-fired Mason's blood. Oh my. What the? Forget the sleeves. The whole coat is covered in blood. Of course. The black color of the fabric was masking the stains. That's why we haven't seen them until now. And the blood has reacted with the chemical to turn a purple color, which matches one of the samples we've already collected perfectly. Yes. Now let's see. Who had the purple blood? Aha, yes! It was the brickmaker, Mr. Mason, the victim of the murder case 2 months ago. I knew it. What are you all on about? The victim? What do you mean? It's a rather uncomfortable situation, Mr. Naruto, but I think this makes things quite clear. It means the omnibus case is finally solved. The truth about who really murdered the brickmaker, Mr. Mason, is revealed. Oi, will someone explain what's going on? Stop telling half the story. We can see now that the victim's blood is all over Mr. McGilden's overcoat. But in the trial 2 months ago, the defendant said this in his testimony. Now I ask you, what good-hearted soul wouldn't rush to help a fellow bleeding from his stomach? I wasn't about to start worrying about me gloves now, was I? I reached out to give the man a hand. But if you look at this overcoat now, it's clear. These stains couldn't have arisen from Mr. McGilden trying to pull the victim to his feet. No, if that was what had really happened, the blood wouldn't have splashed all over the front of the coat. The only explanation for this pattern of blood is that it splattered over McGilden's coat when he stabbed the victim in the stomach. I've tried to run from the truth for long enough, but there's no escaping it now. The true culprit in that case, Mr. Mason's killer, was Magnus McGilden. Mr. Naruto, that horrible case is solved at last, and I helped the man walk free from that trial. I used all that twisted testimony and all that sham evidence to prove his innocence. How could I have let that happen? Bruno, did you believe him, though? Did you believe Mr. McGilden was innocent? I believed. Or rather, I think I was trying to believe. I wanted to, because believing in those you represent in court is a defense lawyer's greatest weapon. A weapon? Before we came to Great Britain, a great friend of mine taught me a very valuable lesson. You mean Kazuma-sama? Oh! I was wondering when this music would show up again. Listen, Ryunosuke. We lawyers are only human. We can't know for sure what is the truth or what is a lie, which is why we must resort to our primary weapon, an unwavering belief in our clients. That's all we really have. Unwavering belief? Only when we truly believe what our clients tell us can we fight with everything we have for their cause. In any battle, there can be no victory without faith. So I believe you, unwaveringly. What's funny, Gina? Cool. Sounds like in this Empire Japan you come from, everyone must be soft. Well, come on. Look at the mess it's got you into, believing in that bog trotter. Yes, I inadvertently helped a murderer walk free. Well, at least you've learned your lesson now, eh? Believing in people's never worth it. Someone always stabs you in the back in the end. As soon as you let down your guard, you've had it. Take a leaf out of my book. Believe no one. Get hurt by no one. Gina, may I ask you something? What? I'd just like to make absolutely sure. What would you like us to do with these representation papers for tomorrow's trial? How many times do I have to say it? Rip them up and chuck them away. Are you really sure that's what you want? I bet that's what he wants and all now. Mr. I'm a Believer lawyer over there. Don't forget it was me in that trial 2 months ago. I led everyone up the garden path, didn't I? And you're telling me you could believe in me after that? Not likely. Well, Mr. Naruto, a lawyer's primary weapon is an unwavering belief in his clients. Ultimately, it comes down to whether or not I feel I can trust Gina after everything that's happened. I trust her. Gina, let me say it again. Please allow me to represent you in tomorrow's trial. Eh? You have faked? Not at all. You've not once admitted to committing the crime, have you? What's more, I believe that you're telling me the truth. Seriously, Mr. Naruto. Didn't you hear all of what I said before? I'm a born liar. Fibs just trip off me tongue. And I'm a diver, don't forget. I pulled the wool over your eyes 2 months ago and got you into all sorts of trouble. Why would you ever trust me now? I just don't get it. Gina, I do understand why you choose not to put your trust in others. But I assure you, there's more to this life than you yet realize. What do you mean? The world we live in is full of people you would do very well to trust. People who won't ever let you down. Eh? It's true that I'm just a student of law, and I'm certainly lacking in courtroom experience, but I can promise you this. Whatever happens, and until my very last breath, I am completely on your side. What do you expect me to say to that? Then it's decided. I will take these papers now and carry out the necessary preparations for tomorrow's trial. It would be a shame to throw them away now after it's been penned with your name so beautifully. Do what you like. You are... I don't know what you are. I don't get you. Gina's taken herself off to the back of her cell. She'd never admit it, but I hope she's feeling relieved. That turned out all right in the end, I think. Whoever's hiding there, show yourself at once. Eavesdropping is the height of cowardice. Miss Susto, somebody is there in the shadows. I could sense it. Somebody who wasn't there before. What? Blimey, you're sharp, eh? Inspector Gregson, I suppose you were using one of those mystic Japanese arts, like the art of stealth I've heard so much about. If anyone was being stealthy, it was you, Inspector. Gregsy! Oh dear me, I am most terribly sorry, your ladyship. I didn't mean to startle you. How long have you been listening in on our conversation? Good grief! Listening in? No! Just got word that there were some visitors who were refusing to leave even though it was after hours. I assure you, your ladyship, I only just arrived this very minute, not a moment earlier. That's all it is, nothing untoward, nothing at all. After hours? Is it that late already? So then, I'll humbly excuse myself now, your ladyship. Ta-ta, toodaloo, cheerio, all the best, bye, and bye. That's a lot of farewells, and not one of them appropriate for her ladyship. Oh, but I wanted to have a chat. I'm terribly sorry, but time is pressing at the moment. Oh, I see. That's a shame. I don't get this emergency at the Supreme Court dealt with sharply. Lord Strongheart will, well, emergency? Lord Strongheart? Nothing! Forget I said anything! Anyway, I'm off! Alright, Gregsy, if you have to. Let's chat soon. Delighted! Charmed! Can't wait! If you please, my pleasure! Man, this guy's personality is all over the place when Iris is around. That's a lot of pleasantries, and not one of them sounded sincere. Gregsy's so funny. He says such silly things. It's certainly entertaining to see an inspector of the police fawning to a 10-year-old girl. But anyway, I wonder what this emergency is at the Supreme Court. I must attend the court clerk's office now before it closes. Yes, of course. Thank you, Miss Susato. Kindly escort Iris home now, Mr. Naruhodo. I shall meet you there later. And so our investigation came to an end. Susato-san went to file the necessary papers for my defense of Gina the following day. And then it hit me. I could no longer suppress the wretched feeling that had been gnawing away at my insides. Tomorrow, Susato-san would be leaving Britain, and making her way back to Japan. 16th of April, 11:13 p.m., Naruhodo's Legal Consultancy. Naruhodo-san, it's been a very trying day, hasn't it? I do hope you're not too exhausted. What about you, Susato-san? Today has been even more trying for you, I'm sure. Mr. Sholmes was shot before our eyes, Gina was arrested, all on the back of the news that our father has fallen ill and that she must return to Japan at once. I hope your father recovers soon. Thank you for your kind words. I wonder why it is that so many thoughts rage in my head like a storm, and yet I seem unable to find the words to express any of them. I know exactly what you mean. Anyway, I have one final task to complete as your judicial assistant. Once that is done, I shall make preparations for my departure tomorrow. One final task? What do you have to Ooh, 3 topics. Going back to Japan. It's just 2 months since we arrived in London. But we managed to establish this office. It was finally feeling as though we were settling in. I would be lying if I said I felt no regret. I'm so sorry, Susato-san. It's just so sudden. I really don't know what to think. I've had no time to gather my thoughts. I know we've only been here a short time, but in my limited experience at the courtroom, I feel I've learned something. And what would that be? It seems to me there are many facets to people's personalities. Facets? And like a jewel, the light plays off them in complex patterns, illuminating their actions and their motives. But we only see, that is a typo, we only see a small number of the total facets, and what is illuminated is only a part of the whole story. What lies in the shadows? What do those facets we cannot see look like? Perhaps there are some parts we'll never lay eyes on, for as long as we live. That's so true. Sometimes I feel as though I'm blind to so much, but I keep hoping that one day it will all become clear. As all the facets will be illuminated, and I'll finally understand how everything fits together. Naruhodo-san, I suppose what matters is that we keep our eyes open and keep moving forward, even if the way sometimes seems dark. It's amazing to think it's been just 2 months. You've grown so much. Sorry, I've what? Oh no, it was nothing. Unimportant. Do you know what time you will leave London in the morning? Yes, I picked up my ticket earlier. I should be leaving here at 4 a.m. I see. Well, I'll escort you to the station. Absolutely not. Sorry? I'm sure you realize why I couldn't possibly let you do that. You have a very important day ahead of you tomorrow. Gina's trial. Yes, I know, but every word you utter will have the potential to determine Gina's fate. You must get as much rest as possible. Even though, like me, I'm sure you'll find it hard to sleep. But please, for me, do try. And one final task. You mentioned one final task a moment ago. What did you mean? Oh my, I nearly forgot. Please, I want you to have this. What is that? Some huge bundle of documents. It's my notes from the case 2 months ago. The murder that was committed on the omnibus. The McGilded case. It seems to me that this case of Mr. Windybank's murder, of which Gina is accused, is very much tied up with that omnibus case, in ways that are not yet completely apparent. So I took the liberty of consolidating my writings about the case for you. With everything else she's had to think about, Suicidal-san still managed to do this, and all neatly laid out for me in her beautiful handwriting. It was my pleasure. I can only hope that it will bolster your case tomorrow for Gina. Thank you so much, Suicidal-san. I will do my best to use it wisely. You really are the best judicial assistant in the world. Well, that's extremely flattering. But I'm sorry to say that I've been a complete failure. Sorry? I didn't quite catch what you said there. Oh, ignore me. I was just mumbling to myself. The McGilded case notes have been entered into the court record. Well, it's getting rather late. I think you should go to bed now, Naruhodo-san. I must finish packing up my things in my room. Suicidal-san, I wish you the very best of luck tomorrow. Good night. Oh! I didn't even get to read that before she did the Suicidal takedown. What was that? A secret technique of mine. The Suicidal Shutdown. Shutdown? Please, I implore you. If we have to voice our goodbyes, I won't be able to hold back my tears. Suicidal-san. It truly had been a trying day. On our feet for hours, getting Gina to open up to us, and learning the truth about that nemesis of a case. Physically and mentally, I was exhausted, and yet the idea of sleep seemed impossible, but I forced myself to close my eyes, and as a cacophony of scenes of our lives here in London played through my mind. Eventually, my fatigue triumphed, and I fell into a deep sleep. Some 17th of April, the small hour, St. Sinners Hospital, Ward 3. Yes, I quite understand. That is a great weight off my mind. Oh, it's Sholmes! Rest assured, I shall put everything in place, exactly as we have discussed. Thank you so much. It has been an honor and a pleasure to be acquainted with you, Mr. Sholmes. On the contrary, the pleasure has been mine. I bid you farewell, and Godspeed. My dear madam. Why was Susato at the hospital? guess we'll find that out in the next live stream. I have been live streaming for about an hour, so I think it is a good place to stop, and we shall continue with this in tomorrow's live stream. It'll be the first, so I will definitely be starting on the trial segment of the episode 5. So thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed the live stream, please leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out Mother Roy's Need Our page. Click the link in the description below to achieve your dream and be Magaka Unlimited Christopher 2. You know what just wanted. And of course, don't forget to click that little bell button if you wish to be notified whenever I upload a video or a live stream to my channel. And most importantly, if you wish to see all Let's Plays done, you can do so by checking out my playlist section. All my videos are there, archive your viewing entertainment, so you can watch Let's Plays like Final Fantasy 15, Batman Arkham Knight, God of War, and many, many more. Thank you all for watching. As always, your host, Mario Shadows, and Alonzi, and I'll see you for the next adventure. Goodbye, everyone.